Ben Shapiro goes out there. He has never contributed to the discourse a single original idea, a single original theory. You know, people have it like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Sam Harris. These are intellectual titans. Somebody like Ben Shapiro, Christina Hoff Sommers, they have never contributed a single new, fresh idea in their lives. It's all reheated neoconservatism, reheated neoliberalism. I could predict everything Ben Shapiro says based on watching Milton Friedman's Free to Choose lecture series from the 1970s, and that should tell you everything. So these people are they're not original, they're not fresh, they're not dark, they're not intellectual. It's safe, PC, kosher centrism, and poorly delivered.
Where a white supremacist went into a synagogue.
Wait, what? A white supremacist? When did he morph into a white supremacist? Huh? Has that been confirmed? Whatever, just, be free and loose with it. He was white, probably a white supremacist. Is there a difference even? I don't know.
And slaughtered, murdered.
Yell it, because it's better when you yell it.
I believe 11 Jewish individuals?
Well, Anna, I guess it's a done deal. I guess the greatest threat to Jewish people, what did you say, Ben? Globally and throughout time, is this one guy in Pittsburgh. That's a Cal State Northridge thought from this thought.
Of Ben Shapiro is that he was made back when he was a little kid. And I was at WorldNet Daily at the time. And he was just a little kid regurgitating Republican Party talking points. And he actually had a crisis of confidence after a couple of years of doing that and emailed me and said, hey, what should I do? Should I keep doing this? And I had encouraged him to go off and really go off on his own, figure out what you believe. What do you think is right? But it became very clear back in around the time of the Iraqi war that he made the wrong decision. And I published a column called The Littlest Chicken Hawk, because what he was doing was saying that it was the most important thing for us to go and fight that war. But he wasn't willing to go and do it himself, despite the fact that he was about 18 years old at the time. And that's when I realized that, this is a guy who is not intellectually honest. He's a guy who doesn't have any personal integrity. And what he's attempting to do is get other young men to go and fight and die in his place. And that's not right. And what we've seen since then is that Ben Shapiro, along with Jordan Peterson, are essentially there to replace William F. Buckley. Neoconservatism has failed. It's no longer possible for them to read out the Sam Francises, the Pat Buchanans, the Joe Sobrins, and the Alex Jones from the right, because the neoliberal world order has failed. Multiculturalism has failed. Neoconservatism has failed. And so they're trying to come up with a way to keep the right on the reservation. And that's what Ben Shapiro is doing in the world of politics. And that's what Jordan Peterson is doing in the world of philosophy.
And a bunch of crew here, they're like, who's Ben Shapiro? Well, he's an anointed neocon snot-nose who walks around making Richard Pearl type faces where he tries to act scary and powerful. He just recycles a bunch of libertarian conservative thought and a bunch of other think tank stuff. And
Conservative Ben Shapiro was quick to jump on the defense of James Gunn's old vile tweets concerning pedophilia. But why? Why did he defend him but not Roseanne? I'm not supremely troubled by their decision, and I think ABC was right to dump Roseanne. End. I think James Gunn is an asshole, as my exchange with him earlier this week made clear. I also think that firing him for vile old joke tweets is bad precedent and a mistake. There is no limiting principle to the outrage mob.
Whereas Ben Shapiro, again, offers that false alternative. So he is far more wicked and must be combated with a greater seriousness.
Do you believe there's a soul or something like a soul, a pattern information that represents who you are, that floats off the body and continues on?
So I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't know. And I don't think anybody has a great verifiable account of that. I have suspicions, but if you're talking about drugs that you just take and it makes you high and you ruin your life, that's really your business as long as I'm not paying for it. The big problem with decriminalization of drugs is you have to ensure that the decriminalized price of drugs is below the street market price of drugs. So one of the problems we have in California is you decriminalize marijuana, but the price that you get at the marijuana dispensary is still higher than black market marijuana, so people still buy on the black market. You haven't destroyed the black market. You just created a black market that is in competition with the real market. In order to really do this, it would work. Actually, decriminalization of drugs, there's a good case to be made that decriminalization of drugs would actually work better on the level of harder core drugs that are more expensive rather than cheaper drugs. That would actually be the case, the strong case, the economic case for decriminalization. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
Dude, Ben Shapiro called Ron Paul an anti-Semite because he's against foreign wars and the Federal Reserve. Do you understand how twisted that is? Like, Ben Shapiro thinks that Trump is like an idiot for ending an endless war. You know, how can that, when people say right wing, and they have Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro in the same category. And you have one guy that, okay, we created Syria's civil war. And I'm not one of these like, we're the reason there's terrorism. We created that. Obama and Hillary Clinton created that war. We funded both sides. How, like John Kerry, that retard, messed up royally when someone said, what could get you to not want to invade Syria? And he was like, well, maybe if Assad gave up his chemical weapons. And Assad was like, okay, here, take them. Take the chemical weapons. And then everyone was like, John Kerry, why'd you say that? Now we can still invade, but now it's going to be very tricky. And the American people don't want war. Like the vast, 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 vast majority of the American people do not feel that us being in Syria is remotely justified. We created a civil war. Obama and Hillary dismantled it. We saw what happened with other countries where as soon as we take out their current fairly secular leader, it like hell is unleashed. A caliphate comes out, and then it becomes this nationless force of terror like ISIS. Where before you had Saddam Hussein, who was a piece of shit, but like compare that to ISIS. So American people are like, no. And now people like Ben Shapiro are like, we're idiots. The war in Afghanistan is so long that there's people serving right now that were not born yet when it started. How is that guy and me and Tucker Carlson the same political party? That's a fundamental issue. We're not talking about Boll and Branch sheets here. We're talking about how can one person think we should be in countries forever for no morally explainable reason, and another person in the same political party says, we need to bring our troops home. We need to focus on America. We need to stop making the same mistakes over and over again because of the regime change ends in Islamic caliphates and multinational terrorist organizations like ISIS.